Hi ho ho, it's me, Danny Trejo, back at it again with a new episode of the Boy Time Podcast. And as always, I'm joined by Babby and Paul.
Hi.
Ooh, boy. We took a week off. Frankly, I think last week we were all very tired. That seemed to
Still
be the
tired.
consensus. I did not watch a single movie that week before. I have been working. I worked 13 days straight. I had one day off on Sunday, and then I'm working all this week too. So I have not really had a lot of time to watch movies. I watched one movie. So
Uno move.
just one. And it didn't. And here's the thing. Last time I brought up that I was going to watch I, Tonya, I, Robot, and I, Vitelloni, I got 20 minutes into I, Vitelloni, and I turned it off because it was so boring. And I should have known from the title that it was an Italian film. Italian movies are well known for being boring and very, very slow. But I forgot that fact. So who knows? Maybe at some point I will watch that movie and I will do this funny little 3 movie run. This week I was like, okay, if I'm not gonna watch I Vitelloni, I'm gonna do 3 one-word titles that are all sharp weapons. Trying to make it as specific as possible. So I was going to watch Machete, Blade, and Excalibur. But I just watched Machete. So I've been very busy. Well, actually, I did
watched Shark Boy and Lava Girl, so we were in the same realm.
that. Yeah, same
Danny Trejo
director.
isn't in there though. Yeah.
No. Yeah, it was kind of weird because it's famous because they're in the same universe, Machete and Spy Kids. For some reason,
It's so weird. It's really cool.
I'll put that in like giant air quotes because there's no connection between them except
No.
that his character, Danny Trejo's character in Spy Kids, is called Machete, and Robert
Yeah, it's the
Rodriguez
same
directed
person.
both. Yes. And Junie is in Machete, but he's not playing Junie. And also Cheech Marin is in Machete, and he plays like the uncle in the first Spy Kids movie that turns out to be like a government agent who like rips his mustache off. It's been a hot minute since I've seen the first Spy Kids, but
Yeah.
I remember that Cheech Marin is in it, of Cheech and Chong fame. But
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Forgot the character. he played.
he's like when the parents go on vacation, they're like, "Hey, Cheech Marin, watch our kids," and then the
Steve Buscemi's in there for like 5 seconds, isn't he?
he's in the second one. He plays
okay.
he plays the scientist that is mixing all of the animals
Oh
together.
yeah, with the pigs. Yeah.
Yes, he rides in Spy Kids 3. He rides in on a flying pig at
Yes.
the end.
Famously.
Yeah. I know too much about Spy Kids lore. Even though we watched those movies like 3 years ago, I still remember them.
Those will
kind of
forever be
vividly.
implanted in my head.
Yeah, that is definitely true. So it was nice to kind of get a Spy Kids 2.5 in Machete. Or 3.5? I think it came out after Spy Kids 3 because Machete came out in 2011. But yeah, I guess we can just talk about it. There's not a whole lot to say. Although the cast in it is kind of crazy. I had to stop like halfway through the intro credits because I'm like, I have to write this down because this cast is absolutely nuts. So yeah, Machete, directed by Robert Rodriguez. It is starring Danny Trejo, Steven Seagal. He plays a Mexican drug cartel kingpin,
Perfect role.
which is weird because we all know that he's a Russian, or at least he claims to be. I'm not sure. Michelle Rodriguez from the Fast and Furious movies, Lindsay Lohan, Tom Savini, Frank Ziti himself is in this movie. as soon as that came up, I'm like, oh, we were just talking about Frank Ziti last week. That's awesome. But yeah, then Jessica Alba, Cheech Marin, and then somehow Robert De Niro. It's a wacky cast of all sorts of different people. But yeah, it is super violent. It is very gory, and it's very ahead of its time because the bad guy in the movie is played by Robert De Niro. He's playing a Texas senator that is all for creating an electrified border wall to keep those immigrants out. And the like right hand man of Robert De Niro is like a U.S. Marshal that like goes around on the U.S. Mexican border like hunting, I guess, illegal aliens that are trying to cross the border. And Robert De Niro is shooting them also with like an AR-15. And he's like, "You should say that. My high dollar donors are gonna love this." And then like they film him shooting a person, which, as you can guess, comes back in the end in a big way. It's the classic "I'd kidnap 1,000 children before I let this company die" moment, where he's like, "What? I never killed someone," and then they're like, "Explain this footage then of you shooting someone who's unarmed and seeking refuge." He's like, "Uh-oh." But yeah, it's pretty g-dang fun. It's a good movie. Danny Trejo, like it's one of those movies. It's kind of like a James Bond movie, like a classic James Bond movie, except all of the women aren't named like Tina Sexton or something. They're given actual names, but they all fall in love with Danny Trejo immediately, which I think is the most unrealistic part of the movie, because I mean, Danny Trejo kind of has the Steve Buscemi thing going on, where he's just kind of funny looking. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but why would
Funny looking is in right now.
Well, that's true. Was it in 2011?
Maybe.
It's just kind of weird to see like Jessica Alba be like, "Oh, Danny Trejo, take me now," and I'm like, "What? This is like Megan Fox and like Machine Gun Kelly all over again," where it's just like these two things should not be happening right now. And yeah, and him and Michelle Rodriguez also hook up, and him and Lindsay Lohan. But unlike a James Bond movie, Danny Trejo waits until women are no longer inebriated before having sex with them, which, very ahead of his time. He was really he really was like, I know that the Me Too movement is going to happen eventually, and I'm going to get out in front of it.
He had that foresight.
Yeah.
Not because he's a good person, but because he was afraid of being canceled.
That's right. Yeah, it's one of those movies. But I think my favorite part of the movie is there's a hospital fight scene because Danny Trejo is hired to kill Robert De Niro in the beginning of the movie by like some random guy. Like, "I need you to put a bullet in Robert De Niro," and it turns out it was all just a big ruse. That the guy who ordered him to kill Robert De Niro was in on it the whole time, and he like frames Danny Trejo as like, an angry Mexican person tried to kill Robert De Niro. It's like, and like, there was like an actual sniper there that like shot at Danny Trejo and then like shot Robert De Niro in the leg. So there was a second shooter the whole time, but everyone thinks it was like Danny Trejo. Just like John F. Kennedy.
Yeah.
See, this movie is actually very revolutionary in its portrayal of American politics. But yeah, so, he gets shot at by this sniper and he's taken to this underground hospital where, like, I don't know. This is weird. Where, like, all of the nurses are wearing, like, sexy nurse outfits. And then, like, they're helping Danny Trejo. And then, like, the doctor comes in and he's, like, looking at the woman's ass. And the lady's like, I can feel you in my uterus right now. And he's like, oh, do you want to? And then he spanks her. I'm like, what the hell is this? What kind of hospital works like this? Yeah. And then he's just like, out of the blue, he's like, hey, did you know that the human intestine is like 60 feet long? It's true. I'm a doctor. I'm like, that's
Wisdom.
random. Is that a sex thing? Where he's like, I have a 60-foot schlong. I can put it in your ass and I still wouldn't get to your stomach. I don't know. But it comes in handy later because as Danny Trejo is escaping the hospital after the Robert De Niro's goons are there trying to get him, he's on like the third floor and he like chops one of the goons like stomach open. He grabs the intestines and he's using it to rappel down the building because he knew it was set up. That he knew that there was at least 60 feet of usable rope that was just there in that guy's body. So it's actually probably the best movie of all time, honestly.
I didn't know intestines were that strong.
I don't think they are, if I'm being honest. And Danny Trejo, he's a big guy. I think that would have definitely ripped, but it made for a great scene because he rappelled down the wall and then he just like broke through like the second floor window, like an action star. It was pretty sick. But
Nice.
yeah. I mean, it's a good movie. I would recommend it. It's not high art, but I don't know if there's a single Robert Rodriguez movie that should be
They're high
considered.
art in their own special way.
That's true. That's true. Now, maybe for next week, I'll watch From Dusk Till Dawn, which I think is a Robert Rodriguez movie. It has George Clooney in it, and also Quentin Tarantino is acting in it. I don't think Tarantino wrote it or directed it at all. I think he's just in it.
You better say the N word.
I think that's something in his contract. He
I would be
probably.
disappointed if he didn't.
I'll report back and see. But yes, that is. I think that's the biggest Robert Rodriguez movie. Is probably From Dusk Till Dawn. Let me double check that is a Robert Rodriguez movie. Okay, it is. It is written by Tarantino, directed by Robert Rodriguez, and then Tarantino's in it, and Danny Trejo is also in it. So it's bound to be a good movie. Oh, and Frank Ziti is in it as Sex Machine.
I love Frank.
Well, I don't know why Frank Ziti is. He's not an actor. He's a special effects guy.
He
But-
just wanted to be there, and they wanted to be nice to him.
Well, I guess. The thing is that Frank Ziti was in Machete, but like all of the special effects is all digital. Like there's so many like fake blood squibs, which I was not a fan of. But I thought I was like, oh, that's kind of weird that Frank Ziti is like known for like making all these blood effects and George Romero and like George Romero movies and like the Friday of the 13th movies. It's just like he's just here to act. He's not here to do any special effects work. So good for him, I guess. But yeah, I'd recommend a Machete. So yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do next week, but I don't even know how many movies I'm going to be able to watch. On my one day off, I did not watch any of the movies that I was going to. I was with my girlfriend and we watched Little Miss Sunshine, which I have already talked about on this show. So I will not do another review, but it is a very good movie. But it does not involve any one-word weapon objects that can be used to slice and dice.
Therefore, it is disqualified from being talked about.
Exactly right. Well, I already talked about it. I feel like I talked about it not too long
Exactly.
ago. I think it was probably before 200, but I did talk about it somewhat recently. So it's a good movie. Check it out. It's on Max. So there you go. Let's move on to some news stuff. just one little thing. But we did get some stills from the new last season of Fargo. Fargo season 5 is premiering on November 21st.
I forgot they were doing another season.
I forgot too. And then they're like, hey, it's coming out in 2 months. I think it was one of those things where, like, COVID kept pushing it back and back and back. But it's finally coming out, and John Hamm is the lead. So
Let's
it's going to be
go.
good. Love John Hamm. And it appears to be more like a Western. Like, the stills made it look like a Western. Everyone's wearing cowboy hats.
Nice.
It looks like it's like a northern Western. Not Northwest, not like Oregon, but like I think it probably still takes place in Fargo, just like a long time ago, where everybody's saying yeehaw and herding cattle through the frozen wasteland. I don't know. But I'll probably watch it eventually. I'm backed up on everything else, but I'll probably watch it eventually. But Fargo's a pretty good show. I don't think it ever gets as good as the movie does, but it's
No, but it's
a
enjoyable.
good show. It's a good show. I saw someone, when all this news was coming out, someone was like, man, yeah, I can't wait for the new season of Fargo. Season 3 is one of the best seasons of television I have ever seen. And I got
Which
very
one was
sad.
3?
That is the one with Ewan McGregor, where he's playing twins, and then there's that British guy who has messed up teeth.
Oh, that was like the worst one.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm like, why is this the best season of television you've ever seen? Have you seen any other show? Watch The Bear. Watch Breaking Bad. Watch Slip and Jimmy for all I care. Do it. But yeah, that'll be good. And then I think the only other thing I'm going to talk about on my segment, it's not a I guess a motion media thing. It is a graphic novel that I read. That's right. This is now a book review podcast. Except the books have the books have pictures in them, so
I
it's
read
basically
books
for
without
children.
pictures, so this isn't going to work.
What?
I read books without pictures, so this isn't going to work.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. But I read maybe one of the darkest things I have ever seen. Certainly one of the darkest, I guess, superhero things I have ever seen. It is the Arkham Asylum book. Arkham Asylum: A Serious House on Serious Earth. The crazy thing about this book is that it came out in 1989. For those who don't know their Batman history, that's a very big year for Batman because for, I would say, the vast majority of people from the 60s until 1989, Batman was Adam West. Holy guacamole, Batman, we gotta stop the Joker from putting a big bomb on top of the Empire State Building. That was Batman for everybody until the Tim Burton movie came out. And then people were like, oh, this is what Batman should be from now on. And then it pretty much was that until the Joel Schumacher Batman movies came out. And then that was like, okay, let's go back to the goofy Adam West stuff. But then nobody liked those. So then, like, superhero movies were in shambles. And then Spider-Man came out, and then Chris Nolan started making Batman movies. Then it was back. But so before the Batman 1989 movie came out, the graphic novel Arkham Asylum: A Serious House on Serious Earth came out, and it was very successful. Not immediately, but once the movie came out, it was like, oh, I want to get more Batman stuff. Let's read this. I would not go into this book expecting the Tim Burton, Batman. I was interested in it because I think I saw a few frames on Twitter, and I'm like, this is a weird art style. And I would encourage everybody, if you are able to look up some pictures from this book, I would highly recommend you do so. The art style is it's scary and shocking, but especially how they portray the Joker is one of the scariest things I've ever seen. He looks more like Jeff the Killer than like Jack Nicholson, I guess. Especially, I don't know if you'll be able to look this up. I would look up, I guess, Arkham Asylum Joker April Fools. There's one still where he says April Fools, and it is a shocking image to be sure how they portrayed him. But so I read those frames. And I'm like, this is dark and it's gritty and it's everything I like about Batman. Why I like him so much. And I'm like, this is great. I'll have to check this out. And then I found out that it is roughly what the game Arkham Asylum is based on. I'm going to say very roughly because the book it kind of goes against everything that Batman stands for, but it is kind of an interesting character study and a kind of deconstruction of the Batman kind of world and all the characters in it. The way that it's related to the game is that the book starts and we find out that all of the inmates in Arkham Asylum have taken over the asylum. You know, all of the guards or whatever have all been
Taking
killed.
over Lego City.
They have taken over Lego City. And that's pretty much where the similarities between the book and the game end. There's a few things that connect the game and the book, but like that is really it. And you know, Batman in the beginning, he meets with Jim Gordon, and he's like, "Hey, what's going on?" And Jim's like, "You know, we've given in to like all of their demands, but their last demand is they want to meet you." Basically, all these people that you've put in the asylum, they want you alone in the asylum. And you know, Batman is not scared of what they're gonna do to him. He's scared that when he enters the asylum, he's gonna feel at home. And that's one of the interesting things that I have not seen any of the major Batman movies kind of portray. I'd say the closest is probably this newest one, where you know there is a very very thin line between what Batman is doing and what the criminals are doing, and there's a lot of overlap in their kind of obsessions and you know, who's right and who's wrong, because Batman is, you know, beating people to a pulp, just not killing them. But really, that's not a whole lot better, because you know, and if you really take a step back from Batman and everything about it, you know, it's a rich white guy who has inherited a lot of wealth, who is using said wealth to beat up poor people, who are only acting in the ways that they are because they are struggling and because they were not given the advantages that he was. So in many ways, Batman is not the shining example of a hero.
But he's so cool.
But he is so cool. But I think that's what makes him interesting. And what makes the whole universe interesting is that there is no clear-cut good guy. Because I think my like second favorite superhero is Spider-Man. But that is very like, I don't want to say it's black and white, but it is like Peter Parker, Spider-Man, is the good guy. And like Otto Octavius is killing people and robbing banks or whatever. It's like, it's a very kind of golden age superhero kind of idea. But
I think the premise of a superhero in general has all of those questions attached to it immediately.
yes. But what I like about Spider-Man, this is a little bit off track, is that in most portrayals of Spider-Man is that he's not like a rich guy. He's like a down and out college student who's like struggling to maintain his life, which is why Spider-Man 2 is so great, because it gets into that. It really is more of a Peter Parker story than it is a Spider-Man story. and that he's trying to juggle all these things and maintain relationships, and it's more a character drama than a superhero movie. But I guess back to the book. It kind of portrays a lot of the superheroes, or the I guess super villains, a little more realistically. So like I'm trying to think. Yeah, Clayface, for example. I don't think he hasn't been in any of the big movies. I think he's gonna be in the new one, the Batman 2. I think he's gonna be a villain there. But he's kind of like a chameleon type fella. He can change his appearance and be whatever he wants to be, and sometimes he's a giant clay monster, but most times he's just kind of disguising himself as other people and can do so perfectly because his whole body is made of clay. In this book, basically he's kind of like Deadpool in that like his whole body is eating him from the inside out, and that like he's not made of like clay, and that like he can morph and change into all these things. He's just basically like I don't want to say just like a crazy person, but just like you know he's being eaten alive and he's like rotting. And so like when Batman approaches him, he just like breaks his leg and runs away. I'm like, what the hell? And this is the good guy. Because the whole premise is that the Joker, he has all of the like medical people, he has them held hostage. And he's like, we're going to kill them in 1 hour if you don't find Clayface. You're gonna have to. Who else is it? It's Scarecrow, Clayface, the Killer Croc, and then there's like this one guy that I had never heard of. It's like Doctor Vesuvius or something. Which he might be an invention for this book. I'm not sure. But yeah, Clayface, he just kind of like breaks his leg and then runs away. And Dr. Vesuvius, basically, he's just like a guy in a wheelchair. But like, if you make eye contact, then he makes you want to kill yourself. So Batman just sneaks up behind him and pushes him down the stairs, and just kills him. Yeah, I'm like that's crazy. Yeah, what does Scarecrow? He's just kind of like a guy. He's just a guy. He doesn't have like crazy gas or anything. He's just dressed up like a scarecrow. I don't even think they show what Batman does to him. But yeah, Killer Croc. He gets in a fight with Killer Croc. You don't want to know. And that's the one thing I'll say about this book is that the art style is crazy. It is yeah, it's haunting and how everything is portrayed, but it is also not very clear what is happening because it is kind of abstract in how it is portrayed. I had to watch a video about it afterwards. And also, so I got the book. It was like the 15-year anniversary, so it came out in the 2000s. And from that point on, the person who wrote it was so unhappy with the art direction because he was not like the person who did the art for it. He was like not the first pick that the writer wanted. He wanted something a little more kind of like what most like comic things looked like at that time. He wanted a very like, cliche type Batman portrayal. You wanted everything to be very clear, but the person they got was this almost kind of like a David Lynch type, where it's just like, why would you get this guy to come in and do the art for this comic? Because you can hardly tell what's happening. Even though it looks really cool, it's hard to tell. But yeah, so because the writer was so pissed, now in every edition, since I think the 90s or 2000s, the script of the comic is the other half of the book. So the first half is only like 100 pages, maybe. And that's the whole comic and how it was originally released. But the release I have has the script and has like his notes so that you can understand what's going on. Which I have not read because I'm like, I'm not going to read the same thing again. But I probably will go back eventually. But yeah, I mean, Batman straight up just like kills Killer Croc with a spear. And then, yeah, it's kind of crazy. I don't want to give the ending away, and there's a whole other half of the book because it's bouncing between perspectives, kind of like Watchmen, the book, not the Zack Snyder movie, or I guess the new television show, where for the first like 2/3 of the Watchmen book, it like is like the Watchmen story, and then it's just like some tale about a pirate. Which if I'm gonna be completely honest, I skipped those about halfway through because I'm like, this is so I don't care about this G-dang pirate. I know it probably ties into the story in some way, but I was able to completely understand the story when I skipped it. So, whatever. But yeah, so this book is kind of split between what's Batman's going on, and then it's also going through excerpts of Amadeus Arkham's journal, who founded Arkham Asylum, but also went on to be one of its first inmates. So it's a very interesting story. It's a very sad story, and it's great. I think this book is fantastic. It's a really great deconstruction of all of the Batman archetypes and stuff, but it is a little hard to follow. And also, this is a little nitpick. Okay, so I know they wanted to go further with this, but they didn't end up going far enough, I don't think. But the Joker is gay in this book. And that's not the problem I have with it. It's just kind of like surface level, where like when Batman walks in, Joker smacks his ass and is like,
I
"Oh,
like men, Batman.
I like men, Batman." But it's never really expanded on it, and it's a really short story, so I don't know if they really had the opportunity to. But apparently, when they were originally making the art and the story for the book, the Joker was going to be wearing like a latex unitard that was mimicking a Madonna outfit from, I don't remember what song it is or what music video, but basically just like a Madonna outfit, and the Joker was just going to be wearing that, and I I don't know why. I because it isn't really brought up in the book. It isn't like it isn't anything like integral to his character. It's just kind of like, oh, Joker smacks Batman's ass. The Joker's gay, and I'm like, okay, you can do something with that. there, there's stuff that you can do by
It is very integral, believe me.
I suppose. But it does kind of makes me wonder, because this was before Harley Quinn was established as being a thing, and even then, I think in most modern, Harley Quinn things is that when Harley Quinn was established, I think that was in the '90s TV show, like Batman the Animated Series, which has Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy as Batman and Joker for the first time. Very, very good. But that is like more overtly like it is Joker's love interest. Like she's like a sidekick to the Joker. And now it's more like Joker like mentally abuses her, and it's like very much like a toxic thing. I know that there's like a Harley Quinn TV show where I don't even think they're together. Kind of like the Harley Quinn movie they made, where she's like, I dumped the Joker. Yeah, I don't even care. That's my impression of Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn. Just weirdly Boston. But yeah, I don't know. I think I mean the book definitely holds up. There's a lot of interesting things it does. I would highly recommend it. I was able to find it for like $10 on. I think I got it on eBay, but I did order a couple more graphic novels, Batman graphic novels, just because I'm interested in that. So I think I think I'm gonna be getting them in a while though. I mean, I got the Killing Joke, which is probably the most famous Batman graphic novel, and then the Dark Knight Returns, which I think actually came out before Arkham Asylum did, but also a very very famous one. Killing Joke, I think, was adapted into like an animated movie that's on Max. I've heard mixed things about it, but that is the famous story where like Joker shoots Barbara Gordon and paralyzes her from the waist down, basically killing any Batman or Batgirl thing from then on out. Because it's like, is this pre or post Killing Joke? Because everybody knows that Barbara Gordon gets shot by the Joker and she's no longer Batgirl. But yeah, I'll probably talk about those when I get them. But for now, I was just like very interested in this Arkham Asylum book just because the art style is so scary.
Okay.
Very scary. But I think that'll do it. That's all I have to talk about. I don't know what my schedule is going to be. Well, I know I'm working every day this week, but I'm not sure what my schedule is going to be for the weekend or anything like that. So I might have time to watch movies. I might not. But, whatever. I'll talk about something. But I guess without further ado, I'll pass it on over to Babby for Musica.
Musica.
Okay.
We did start watching The Bear, by the way. So
Oh, good. How do you think?
think
What are you thinking about it?
we really like it. I think we're like 4 episodes in.
It's so good.
It's so good. I love how it just throws you in immediately.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so once you finish season 2 and we finish season 2, we can actually have a discussion.
Oh boy, now I gotta watch it.
Yeah, now I'm putting pressure on you. It'll take us like a month and a half, don't worry.
Okay, well I got
We're
that.
really bad at finishing shows. Yeah, I have also been extremely busy. So I'm combining my segments this week, actually.
Oh.
This is the rare time that I get to do that. So I will be doing that this week. And then for next week, I might have a segment. I might not. I don't know. We'll see what time does. But it might just be more of like a when I have time to write and say something. That'll be when that segment pops up. But
Sure.
things are crazy right now. So, but music. I had to scroll up my playlist because we skipped a week, and I don't remember if I talked about some of these things or not.
Well, there's one
So
thing
we
that I
will-
have that we're
Yes,
definitely gonna
I
have
will
to
definitely talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll start with Slow Dive. They released their third single from their album, the Slab.
Slab.
Like the Curious
Courage the Dog.
Courage the Cowardly Dog episode. Yeah, very good. This is definitely more of the more instrumental kind of Slow Dive songs, like Sing on Souvlaki, where it's like more watery and spacious. It's really good. I really enjoy it. This album's going to be pretty great. I think I've loved all of the singles so far. I think there's only 8 or 9 songs on it, and they've released 3. So I've heard almost half of the album, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
it's all been bangers so far. So excited for that. And then next we will jump to the Sufjan song.
Yes.
This was completely random. I think it dropped on a Monday randomly. Yeah, So You Are Tired. Apparently he's not taking a break and he's releasing an album October 6th. So
Yeah.
don't know what's up with that. I remember after they released the collab album, Angelo De Augustine and Sufjan's like, I'm taking a break for a little bit, guys. And then he obviously
Nope.
didn't because here we are. But
He
I
did
will
it.
take it.
He did an ambient record and then he's doing this.
Yeah.
So it's like not slowing down at all.
No. But this is the first solo full-length Sufjan album since Carrie and Lowell.
Yeah, first singer-songwriter album.
Singer songwriter,
Yeah.
sorry,
Yeah.
because there was the Ascension in there. I believe that's
Mhm.
kind of one that everybody skips over, myself included. It's still pretty good, but it's not anything. It's not like a mainstay Sufjan album.
Sure.
Um, but I mean, his quality is always there, as we keep continue to find out. Um,
Yes.
but this new one will be Javelin. It's got 10 songs, 42 minutes, so a pretty. I like that track length.
Yes.
That's like the sweet spot for me.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm excited he's going back to singer songwriter stuff because the new song sounds fantastic.
Yes, I love it so much.
There's definitely parts of a beginner's mind in there, but it's more refined to him. I like how it starts very quiet and just kind of like him and the guitar, and then he has these like beautiful like orchestral bits and like background singers come in. It just sounds so good. I'm glad he's going back on this direction. I like his electronic stuff, but this is where he really kind of kills it when he has these uh, like kind of sweeping orchestral moments and background vocals and all that kind of stuff. Um, it's weird because his music doesn't it progresses, but it doesn't sound like it because the minute I heard him, I'm like, oh, this could have been released in 2011. I would have believed it.
It really does. It's like, this is like Illinois. Like I could see it being on Illinois or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like an updated version of like the Illinois format, which is exciting.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
so we'll definitely be doing a first reaction to that. I
Oh
think I
yeah.
can confidently say that when that comes out. Um, our recording schedule is unfortunate now because we have to wait an entire week if we want to do a new release, um,
Yeah.
since we record on Thursdays. So that's going to
That's true.
be, yeah, it's going to be a little bit rough, but we
Maybe
will hang
maybe
in there
we'll
and do it.
push a recording
Yeah,
day back a
we can do
couple.
a Friday night, maybe.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know. Well, it's a
Friday
special
night.
occasion.
Yeah. I'm surprised
So
we never did a beginner's mind. I'm like, why didn't we ever do
I
that?
don't think, um, I don't think you've heard Illinois when that came out. I think
Oh,
that was,
really?
yeah. So I
Oh.
remember I talked about it.
And I
Um,
was just like, yeah, I've listened to Carrie on Lowell.
I think so.
That might be. That might
I
be
think
true.
that's how it lined up because I feel like we would have done a reaction to that one.
Yeah. I love that album.
Oh yeah, it's so good.
Yeah.
I've been going back to it a little bit recently because like I'm so ready for fall. I'm like manifesting it through music now.
Oh man,
Um,
it's so
so
hot.
Sufjan's Sufjan's coming in a little bit, even though it's supposed to be 100 degrees tomorrow. Um,
Let's
It's
go.
it's
yeah,
brutal.
yeah. Our USPS driver is gonna combust into flames.
Man, I got some Gatorade today. My half-gallon jug came in today. Tomorrow's still gonna be miserable, but
I'll be hydrated.
I'll be hydrated. I'm gonna bring 2 Gatorades and a half-gallon of water. So we'll see.
Epic. I think that's it for singles. I didn't listen to anything new this week. I felt like this week was pretty slow. I know there's a new Genesis Owusu album. I might check that out eventually. Hosier dropped an album. Um, I didn't know he was still making
Hosier.
music. Hosier. I don't know how you say it.
Hozier.
The Take Me to Church guy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm like, wait, that
Oh,
guy.
that's
I didn't know that they were still making music.
Yeah, I didn't either. But it's actually getting good reviews. I don't know if I have any interest in listening to it though.
No.
But it came out. But we can jump to the main event this week where I get to combine my segments, and I did not write any notes for it, so I'm going completely off dome.
Oh,
Um,
perfect.
so we'll see how well this goes. But this would have been a lot more heated if I did this last week because there was a lot of contention going on.
Oh no.
No Name dropped her new album, Sundial. Um, this I really enjoyed this album. I will say right off the bat, I think it's one of the best hip hop albums of the year. Um, and this is the rare time where I am like a big contrarian when it comes to hip hop releases. I really enjoy this thing. People are not enjoying it
Oh.
for whatever reason. I know why, but we will get into that. So, No Name is a figure, controversial to say the least in the hip hop sphere. Um, she was in the news in 2019, I believe, where she said she's no longer going to perform for majority white audiences at festivals and things um, because it
How do
made her
you
feel uncomfortable.
how do you regulate
And
that?
she just doesn't perform anymore.
Oh.
That's
Well,
how you regulate that.
no, I suppose, yeah.
But she felt uncomfortable, and I can honestly believe her.
Sure, sure.
There are, the whole Kendrick thing that happened. You go to rap
Hmm.
shows, white people scream the N word in your lyrics back to you.
Yeah.
Uh, Completely understandable. So a lot of people are butthurt at that still. So that came back up in spades with this album, and she does talk about it a little bit. She was also openly a socialist, so that's obviously going to put her under fire with her lyrics. And I think that makes people misunderstand this album a lot. So we're going to dive into that a little bit as we go through this track list because I think people are not. I'm not going to say you're not enjoying it the right way. I think people aren't using their brains um, in any capacity. So yeah, it's already controversial because No Name is attached to it. There's another controversy with this album before it even dropped, and that is including Jay Electronica on a song. Jay Electronica has gone down a really weird and frankly stupid route the past couple of years. He released a written testimony with Jay-Z in 2020. That album was pretty good despite me not agreeing with any of the subject matter in it. But Jay Electronica is he's Nation of Islam member, and
Oh, wait, that's
you
still a
know,
thing?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, he's the whole like Nation of Islam, Black Israelite type guy.
Uh-oh.
That comes with a lot of issues, and she did a lot defending having him on his album, and then his verse was just not good at all. People are saying it's blatantly anti-Semitic. There is definitely some hintings of that. It is not anything crazy, but it also is not good.
Is he defending Kanye or something?
No,
Okay.
that's the thing. It's like people never bring up Kanye when they're talking about how this is awful and that she included him, but then they listen to that Travis Scott record where he references Kanye like 17 times. Plus it being Travis Scott who, Astro World, we just saw that
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
happen, but of course nobody talked about that. But yeah, it is definitely dicey. I don't like it. He should not have been on this album, and she should not have defended him this hard. Struggles or groups like Nation of Islam and Black Israelites are not black independent. Like, they're not black liberation struggles. They're reactionary struggles that are black nationalists, but not in like a good way that's actually going to move anything forward. A lot of it involves anti-Semitic conspiracy theories and stuff like that. Also, people like Kendrick included his uncle on Damn at the end of Fear to go on a 3-minute speech about Black Israelite garbage, and nobody talked about that either. So I will just also point that out. But yeah, very sus. I do not like that he is on here. I think it definitely weighs the album down a little bit, and I think once people heard this verse, they completely shut down from anything that she was attempting to say on this album and anything that Jay Electronica was trying to say, which is pretty much nonsense. So with all that out of the way, we can actually talk about the music.
Perfect.
I hate that I have to do that much of a disclaimer because I think this album sounds fantastic. I'm a big fan of No Name. I like both Room 25 and Telephone quite a bit. They're definitely like your very Chicago jazz rap, Chance the Rapper-esque kind of vibes, which is great. I love that sound. It's so soulful. I love how they incorporate gospel and stuff into that. But this thing is pretty tight, 31 minutes. It's very, very replayable. I go through it front to back while skipping a Jay Electronica feature in there every now and then to save a couple of minutes. But yeah, pretty tight knit. There's a couple songs I'm not too crazy about, but overall, like it is really, really, really good. I think her commentary is on point, like 99% of the time on this record. No matter how you feel about her outside of the record, I still feel she's completely justified in her views, and I think she backs them up quite well on this record. Black Mirror is a good intro. It's just a pretty spacey kind of. She mixes kind of like these more spacey instrumentals with more gospel and jazz, which is really cool. She's really smooth with her flow and her lyricism. It's very quick, but it's also very understandable immediately, which is very hard to do. I feel like when you get into jazz rap and stuff like this, and even just conscious hip hop, sometimes people throw word salads at you too fast, and you have to like really think about it to decipher it. But she's super clear, super enunciative, and the flows are so good. So Black Mirror is fantastic. Hold Me Down is a really, really positive kind of start on the record. I just there's so much to talk about lyrically, but I'm gonna like keep it to the main ones. She calls out Obama on this track and how he, the first black president, and he's the one who bombed us, which was awesome. Also tackles the myth of black billionaires like helping everyday black people. I will reference a lot of things, other resources in this too, because of course, me, a white man, is not going to have all the answers with this. But there are some great resources where people are more knowledgeable than me. So people like FD Signifier has a fantastic video on Obama and the myth of black excellence.
He's a
That's
good boy.
fantastic 2-part video. Kind of breaks down the black billionaire and that kind of thing. He also has some fantastic stuff on Killer Mike. I'm glad someone is also diving into that because I feel like I'm again stranded on an island when it comes to Killer Mike, and people aren't talking about how much he's switched up in the past couple of years. But yeah, so there's great resources there. When it gets to Balloons, this is the one with Jay Electronica on it. It's such a shame that he's on this thing because her verse is so good on this song, and then it just gets thrown out the window. But she does a really good job of diving into kind of explaining herself a little bit when it comes to her decision to not really perform much anymore, and the way that hip hop has become a kind of mainstream genre to the point where like a majority of the people who listen to hip hop are white. That is because of population densities and things, but it is the most popular genre in the world right now, and has been for the past like 5 years, I think.
Even more than country.
What?
Even more than country. I thought
Yeah.
country
Nothing could beat country.
was the most popular.
No, I think hip hop was at least in like 2020 or 2021. Either
Oh,
way,
okay.
it's like huge.
Yeah, yeah.
To the point where country is using 808 drums and stuff.
Wow, that's
now.
true. That's
So
true.
The woke media, they're doing it.
the woke media.
They're the reason behind it.
But in the song, she really tackles how hip hop artists kind of profit off of their own trauma and how white audiences eat it up, and those are like the ones that always have the most trauma induced in the music are usually the ones that get the most praise and attention and eyes. I think it's a really really cool way to look at it, and this starts where like I think people need to get outside of the first person when they're listening to this album because she is not excluding herself from this. This is a overall look at hip hop, the culture, how capitalism relates to it. And as a socialist, I think I'm gonna take her word on it. She does have a book club where she does like revolutionary books and stuff with book club. So I mean, she's doing great work. So I'm gonna take her by her word that she is truly a socialist. So I'm gonna review this thing as through that lens. And when you do that, it's a lot better than if you were to be like, oh, she's just excluding herself from these things and like talking down on people, because that's not what's happening. I think she's really stepping outside of herself and looking at it from a kind of bird's eye point of view. So she references Kendrick a lot on this album too. People got mad at that as well. Kendrick is not like this all good being. You can critique an artist and still critique yourself and not like be like dogpiling on him. It's funny because Kendrick's last record literally was him doing that to himself.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny how people missed the point and thought she was just whining about Kendrick the whole time. But she kind of has a reference to Sing About Me in here and relates it to that thing of white audiences being fascinated with like just the mourning and the trauma and all of this thing and how they kind of attach to it in a way that feels kind of off-putting to her and other people. And then she has a line about how she can't tell if like she can't tell if her popularity and fandom is because people genuinely like her music or if it's just like a thing of consumption and people will move on to the next thing as soon as there's something new that pops up, which is kind of true because people are kind of like done with her. She definitely wants to alienate her audience. She has a certain group of people that she wants to listen to her music, and she's going to keep pushing for that group of people to continue listening, and she's going to push out other people, which again I cannot blame her for. I think especially nowadays, like when everybody has a voice, like me, I'm on a podcast and I talk about music, and anybody can just talk about rap music and stuff like this, and there's like just a ton of white fans who can't relate to it, and then they're gonna criticize it. I completely understand it. But yeah, Balloons, fantastic. Boom Boom is after that. Really nice, just kind of chill. I like how she kind of balances the heavy songs with these more just like fun, just vibey tracks. Like this one especially has more of like a dance beat to it. Just really, really great. She has a WEB Stay with the Boys refrain that's kind of fun. It's pretty catchy.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. Then we go to potentially the interlude. I love that this is like almost dead in the album, like this and Namesake, like dead middle in the album. Really ties the whole thing like together. But this one is kind of like her talking about how potential is used to like how people latch onto an artist is through potential, and they all want her to like live up to this standard that they view in her head, and if she strays from that or says something off-putting that they don't like, that they're going to be like, oh, she had potential but she didn't meet up to it, which is exactly what's happening to her. She has some very controversial opinions, and part of it is imposed by her. She is wanting to alienate certain parts of her audience, but it's just she's really battling with these expectations of what she wants with her rap career and what other people want and what would really make her happy. Again, she kind of references Kendrick here. She was like, if you're just a little bit more pretty, wrote a little bit like Kenny, you'd have a life worth living. I think a lot of this is like her not being able to get off of social media either and just reading everything
Yeah.
because that will just destroy you.
Well, there's two ways that'll go. It's either No
Yeah.
Name or JPEG Mafia.
Exactly. Yeah. But really great. I can't talk about the interlude too much. It's just kind of like one that you have to listen to because the passion kind of comes through with it a lot. Then we get to Namesake, which is maybe it's not the best song, but it's probably the second best song. This one is she is not holding back at all. I love that she wears her ideology on her sleeve and really dives into topics that you don't get a lot, especially for artists as popular as her. This is again where she calls out artists and people got mad because they said that she's being a hypocrite for doing this. I don't think so at all. This one especially talks about the NFL and Jay-Z's kind of partnership with the NFL. Since that took place in 2019, we've had Rihanna, we've had Kendrick, we've had Beyonce. I think there was one more in there, Travis Scott, I think. So she talks about how she obviously doesn't agree with Jay-Z and the NFL being together, and how Jay-Z is not the person that like Jay-Z is not someone to look up to in the culture. Jay-Z is nothing but a black capitalist who now does the same thing as all these other billionaires do. He's not the person to look up to, and it's not a acceptable role model to put in Jay-Z. It does the same thing as every other, wealthy person who's like, you can do this too.
Mark
But
Cuban.
yeah. But she also talks about the link between the NFL and the military industrial complex. I think this was a really smart way to talk about it because she brings up the Super Bowl and how propagandized the Super Bowl in general is and how many people watch it each year, and then relates it back to hip hop with the people that have recently performed in the Super Bowl. Obviously, the NFL does have deep ties with the military industrial complex. The Super Bowl starts, you have the flag that's as big as the field, you have like 10 minutes dedicated to the anthem and all this garbage, and then I mean, even you can even bring in ads and commercials that are just like so out of the realm of possibility. I can talk more about advertising and stuff later, but I mean, advertising nowadays is selling you, a lifestyle. It shows people in these sparkly new houses and apartments and people in their 20s buying $40,000 cars, which is just not exactly how it goes at all. But she brings this example of the Super Bowl, tying to the military as a example of spectacle. Spectacle is basically a thing that distracts you in either an inadvertent or just kind of a background way from real issues. I think it's a really smart idea to bring across, knowing that she is in the music industry. Bringing up Kendrick in this again, like I think it's fine to criticize him. Kendrick is not like a revolutionary figure. Sure, something like TPAB and Goods Kid, Mad City like helped me in my political development a lot, but Kendrick is not someone who is like a revolutionary figure. He's getting his money, he's doing his thing. So I think it's fine to criticize him for that. I think this is more of just like, what is your image of these people? These people are not going to save you from your conditions. These people are performers who make millions of dollars, and they are not really. But she also relates that to Coachella because she refused to play at Coachella a couple of times because she didn't agree with how the company was run and stuff. But eventually she gave in and did it. So she's pointing out that like under capitalism, we all have to participate in it still. There is there's no option to just simply not do it. So there's a big contradiction in this track that I think is portrayed pretty beautifully. She puts it in much more elegant words than I do, and I don't have anything written down, so I'm just going off dome with this. But very, very, very good. I love that she kind of brings it back on herself and self critiques again. I don't think she's necessarily should beat herself up for doing that either, because again, she needs to make her money to live. This is not something where it's like your morals are above all at all times. We all need to participate in this thing, and it's never pretty all the time. But so she kind of strikes down her own image and stuff. She criticizes other people, but she also criticizes herself quite a bit. I think it's really, really well made. I think it's really, this whole album has really made me painfully see how white the hip hop scene is, both online and on these review sites. You can really tell who the audiences are of this kind of music. And as soon as someone has a opinion that is slightly differing or crosses a border or crosses an edge, people turn on you instantly. This album is beautifully made. There's so many really good points in it. And I don't know, I just really, really, really feel the passion from here. And for people to write it off immediately because she name dropped a couple of people, the J Electronica verse, I can definitely find the criticism in. It's not going to ruin the whole experience for me because that's literally 45 seconds on a record. I still don't agree with the decision. I do hope she learns from that and grows from that, which I feel like she should. She has a book club. I can tell she's been reading. I'm hoping she'll learn from that thing and actually take that criticism. She has not. She doubled down on it in her response, which I also don't like. But I think she is just that upfront with. She does not play around on the internet. She's like, okay, don't listen. Then it's a little frustrating, but at the same time, I understand it. But it just shows that white audiences will flip on you, and you are nothing but a commodity to these people. It's just really funny how like people who say they're into conscious hip hop will listen to this album and then be like, no, 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 I can't do any of that. When literally all it's talking about is revolutionary, like black liberation talk and theory. So it's really funny how fast people flip. That was the main takeaway from this album for me. And she's so confident in doing it too, and I love it because she does not back down to these people or give them an inch, which is amazing. Too many people on the internet too nowadays, celebrities and musicians and stuff, when they have a opinion like that, I believe they should stand on it. They shouldn't back down and wimp out on it if that's truly what they believe. Because a lot of these people like make apologies or whatever, and it's like, no, that ruins your whole spiel. If that's really what you think and you're backing down on it, it's gonna ruin the experience for me. So I'm glad she stands strong on this. But continuing on, Beauty Supply, pretty great. This one was a very sleeper one for me. I didn't like it at first, but as I just listened to the album more, it just sounds really good. But this one talks about beauty standards and stuff like that. But beauty standards, how your material conditions change how you are supposed to look in society. I also love the album cover of this. People said it's really ugly and stupid. I think it's pretty great. I love that kind of like expressionist take on like a self-portrait almost, with her battling all these things in her head. But really good there. Toxic wasn't too big of a fan of, just relationship, kind of toxic relationship and how to move on from it track. Not too starting with Afrofuturism. This is like more of an interlude than the actual interlude. Really, really, really great. Just So I don't know if there's anything new that I can really point out in this track. Um, there is a really great line about where is it? Duh, 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 duh. I can't find it right now. That's awesome. Um, but she references her book club in a really fun way. But I really love that track as well. But Gospel is one of the best songs of the year. Maybe top five of the year, actually. Um, this made the whole album worth it for me. First listen, second listen, third listen, like still I get goosebumps every time I listen to the song. This one is featuring Silk Money and Billy Woods. I think there's one more person on here too. I believe it's Stout, which I have not heard of Stout or Silk Money before this song, but now I am interested in both. Um, Really beautiful piano with more of a gospel backing for this song. This is really the definition of revolutionary optimism in a song. It just feels so good. Um, this kind of optimistic, looking forward, like the road is hard, but we will get there. Kind of messaging on here. She shouts out countries like Haiti, Mozambique, Martinique, Trinidad, Grenada, all these countries that have had either revolutions or strong Black Power movements. Um, Man, Silk Money comes in crazy. He is upfront. He is quick. His first lines are, "I'm not gonna lie. I'm not surprised to hear the Fugees is FBI." I don't know if people know this a lot, but one of the members of the Fugees was convicted of uh, conspiracy to defraud the United States, witness tampering, and like acting as an unregistered agent of a foreign government.
Lauren Hill did that?
Not Lauren Hill. Praz Mikkel. I don't think that's his stage name. Um, but yeah, one of the Fugees is an FBI informant.
Oh.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I
immediately when I
knew
heard
it
that, I'm like, whoa, come out
this whole time.
swinging this whole time. Um, it was just kind of funny. And I think I saw the Fugees today posted that they're having like a 25th anniversary tour, and I'm like, how is that going to work when Lauren Hill doesn't show up to any one of her shows?
Lauren Hill doesn't show up, and also she hates. Was it
Yeah,
Wyclef Jean?
yeah,
She has a whole out. Her only album is dissing the other member of the Fugees.
yeah. I don't know how that's going to work. But oh my god, this verse is so good. Uh, Super quick, but super enunciative. It's great. There's a lot of really fantastic ones in here. Can't eat the food due to special effects of the pesticides. Traded in our fears of a white god in exchange for external pride. And then greats like this Kalishnikov kill crackers. That one's one of my favorite lines on the album. It just, he just has an enunciation that is just fantastic. But this whole verse is just fantastic. I love it. The chorus comes back in with the choir, and then it's settled down, and it's just a piano beat, and then nothing but Billy Woods to come in with maybe the best verse of the whole year. The man's had his own album come out, and he's coming out with an Arm Hammer record, and he's done multiple features, but this might be the best on a more just like warm soul gospel kind of cut. But he basically details like him as a child watching Zimbabwe win its independence, and Rhodesia, basically disintegrating and becoming Zimbabwe. Um, we know that his father was a member in the Mugabe government in Zimbabwe, and his mother is a Marxist professor in Jamaica. But he really just details like the spirit of the people once they won that fight. And became Zimbabwe. It just details like the pride in people and just like this overwhelming optimism in a way that like is almost impossible to like talk about on here because you just have to listen to the way that he delivers it and the words he chooses because it like goosebumps every time, brought me to tears on like the first or second listen. It's just like incredibly moving from someone who has a very loud and cold voice. Historically on his own records, it's often like more industrial or lo-fi type beats, and you hear him just like going off on this piano beat, and it is just one of the best things I've heard in a long time. but I mean, just the words and description he uses, it's so good. I mean, even just like the 4 line or the 5 lines here, he's like, just to get a glimpse of the comrades, our boys back from the bush. The crowd swayed to the gospel of liberation, poised for revolution. Wrote a little red book in my father's breast pocket. The ground shook, history moving underfoot. I was on his shoulders on tenor hooks. The leader spoke slow and focused, powerful pauses. The whole verse is just a masterpiece. I'm glad she included him on this record because like more Billy Woods press will always be at like that. That's always a good thing. But man, a masterpiece of a song. Like people are sleeping on this album. I think they will forever be. But that song especially is like one of the best things I've heard all year. So really, really good. That's not even the outro. I feel like it would be acceptable if that's the outro. But Oblivion is the last track, and that has Aoni and Comment on it. The last two
Oh,
songs streak is great because you have Billy Woods, you have Common, you have a fantastic No Name verse, you have the Silk Money verse. It's the vibes are just immaculate on this out on the like these last couple of tracks here. So really, really strong ending to the record. Common is like in prime form here. It sounds like something off of B, which is really impressive.
yeah.
Being this late in the game for him, but just absolutely fantastic. So album ends on a very positive, uplifting note, and it just felt really satisfying as closers after she goes into these pretty heavy and divisive topics. And especially, you know, knowing that she has a book club with revolutionary stuff, a lot of these books are, well, the books are great, but like inspiring optimism, not a lot of them do. It's very political and economic and scientific with a lot of these things, and a lot of them, especially uh, ones that deal with you know, colonialism and stuff like that, are very, very, very heartbreaking. So to kind of lift up with the optimism at the end of this record is fantastic.
Hmm.
But this thing is great. I will forever be the contrarian with this record, but I'm gonna stand by it like she stands by her music because it's smart, it's fun, it's not too dense. She displays these pretty intricate topics in a pretty easy to grapple way. At least I thought. A lot of people, other people didn't think that because they heard Kendrick Lamar in a somewhat negative connotation and freaked out. I think so. But you know, you do you, I guess. But I mean, the album succeeds in what it wants to do. The J Electronica feature will forever be a stain on this record.
Yeah.
But I'm able to overlook it because the rest of the stuff is pretty great. And it also shows how fragile white hip hop audiences are, even though they try to portray themselves as, you know, one within the culture. So it's just a really interesting study to kind of see the internet react to this. When it came out, I was like losing my mind because I'm like, how are all these people being this dumb? And then I'm like, okay, now this just has to be piling on and bandwagoning. There's no way like people knew this stuff before digging into the record and came to their own conclusion like that. They probably listened to it, liked it, and then saw people like responding to the controversy and they're like, oh, I'm going to distance myself from this. Bye bye. Because I can definitely see that happening, especially on the review site I use. Like, it was definitely a little bit of a higher score, and then people started listening to it. So you had a couple of bad reviews, and all of a sudden, boom, it tanked to a 66, which is not right. But yeah, very good. Yeah, there's a couple of FD Signifier videos that will do a great job explaining some of the topics she has on here. I also just finished Franz Fanon's Wretched of the Earth a couple of weeks ago. That is a fantastic book. Digs into colonialism and the mindset of the colonizer and the colonized. And it's a brutal book, but it is one of the best books I've ever read. Gives you a really really good perspective on things like that. I've been exploring African history and African revolutionary movements more and more through literature and stuff, and it's been really eye opening and really fantastic. So really good. So check that out. He kind of like he was a psychiatrist, I believe, and he a lot of the times he would have patients who are both the colonizers, so the French soldiers that were deployed, and then also the citizens of the colonized country, and you can just he gets into the psychiatric stuff of it, and it's just heartbreaking, but it's very very informative. So that's all I have. Yeah. So next week we'll see what's out. I don't think there's anything on my radar that's coming out. I think Drake's releasing his new album. I don't think I'm gonna listen to it, but if I somehow
There's
get
another
bored
new
and
Drake
need to,
record.
yeah, for all the dogs.
Oh yeah.
And his son drew the cover, and it's interesting.
Oh no. We should have just got another emoji one.
Yeah, you should have just done the dog emoji.
Oh, do that.
That would have been fun.
Yeah.
It's honestly like his best album cover since like. Actually, all his album covers are kind of bad. Since Take Care, I'll say.
There you
But
go.
I don't mind it. It's kind of cool. Like if West Side Gun dropped an album with this cover, I wouldn't mind it. So I'm not gonna, pile on Drake for doing it. So it's not horrible. I'll take it. But yeah, Drake's coming. There is a Alchemist and Earl Sweatshirt album that is in existence, and they talked about it, and there's a track list. So
Okay.
that is. I am
That's-
just like
that's
kind
been
of.
potential.
I'm stunned that it actually exists and that it's going to come out. I don't think we know when yet, but I will definitely be all over that thing because that's going to be. I don't want to call something a classic before it comes out, but that's got potential to be like
Yeah.
one of the best.
Well, that's two of the best right there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I will definitely give updates once we learn more about that. But that was like a thing that just kind of came out today, and he was like, "Oh yeah, this exists," which is kind of crazy to do. But I mean, so there's a couple of things coming. I think Slow Dive's September 1st, so that'll be next Friday. I still don't know if we want to do a reaction to that or not. I probably won't be able to go a week without hearing that album because we'll both be wanting to listen to it. So, yeah.
Well,
But
whatever.
That's it.
All right, cool. Well, this was a little boy time mini, I
A
suppose.
mini podcast.
Which is what you
A
like.
mini.
It was, yeah. It was good. It was good. Very, very concise. It's what you like to hear. It's about what you like to see, but you don't actually see podcasts.
Unless you have like a memory that,
What?
or you have like an imagination where you can picture us talking.
We should do a video component of the podcast where we all get together in one room.
I was gonna say,
Unair
we could do
conditioned
that on
room.
Discord, but
Oh, you
that'll
lost
just be
me.
like our boy time videos.
No, that's true. We could do that.
I don't want to be on camera for a podcast. Are you kidding me?
I don't want people to see what I'm doing, which is
You can't expect me to be dressed for a podcast.
I'm naked.
I'm naked.
Oh, I'm not naked. Just for the record.
Oh, we know you are. You don't need to hide it.
I'm wearing a very cute yellow shirt and gray shorts.
Yeah.
Yes.
This
yes.
guy.
Sorry. I'm currently on my second glass of mead. I'm
Mead.
finishing the bottle because I don't have a stopper. But that's what you got to do when you're on a podcast. You got to get drunk. I've always said that.
Yeah.
It's true.
Good podcasts always come when like you're slurring your words and like you're just kind of just a little buzzed, you know. But
And it's next week where I get super high and talk about Marxism for 30 minutes.
that's what you want.
That's the new segment.
Get high and
Explain very complicated things.
yeah. Yeah. Oh wait. Oh, okay. I got some news on the tour, the Fuji's thing. So apparently it's a Miseducation of Lauryn Hill 25th anniversary tour.
Oh,
With
how's
the
that going to work when your singer doesn't show up?
Well, with the Fuji's co-headlining.
That's so weird.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work, but I would go. But I think the
I
closest
feel like
one
I
is in
don't
Chicago.
feel comfortable buying tickets for that because like there's like a 20% chance that they actually show up.
Oh, that's true. That's
She has
just
such a bad track record. It's crazy.
so they just announced it 10 hours ago, and Minneapolis, the first one, is on September 8th.
Oh,
So
that's
like 2 weeks from now,
whoa,
less
that's
than two
crazy.
weeks from now.
Huh.
That's crazy. Because that would probably be the one
We
that I would go to. Because I would not go to
Mhm.
Chicago.
No, Chicago.
But yeah, I don't know. Interesting.
Weird.
Yeah, it's weird. There's with Fuji's for some of these, and then in Australia, she's with coffee with a K. I don't know coffee.
I feel like I've heard of coffee.
Well, there you go. Well, coffee's not going to New Zealand, but they're going to Australia. So
Australia.
deal with that, suckers.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.